So without wasting any more time, well, I'll come back later, but without wasting any more time, I would like to welcome Paul. Paul, do you hear me? Paul Mhando? Right. Yeah, I see Paul Mhando. So Mhando will be our first speaker today. And Paul Mhando is a public speaker and development coach, especially in the area of leadership and governance. And he has started a program in terms of leadership, which is called Elewa Pata Ufaham, you know, so maybe understanding, gain knowledge or wisdom. Well, if I can translate it in English, but you know, he does this in Swahili, so people who speak Swahili will, you know, have an opportunity to go in YouTube and find it. And professionally, he's an accountant and he's a finance administrator, and he's working for ISWP as assistant in ISWP Assessment Services. Okay, so he'll be our first speaker today. Say again? Did you say something, Paul?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
We hear you.
Yeah, I was just say assessment services limited.
Limited. Okay. Yeah. So Paul will be our speaker number one today, and then later we will proceed with the second speaker. So Paul, if you're ready, without wasting any time, so you're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Can you see what I'm wearing here? Can somebody read there? It's quite difficult for you to read, I think.
It's that way.
I am a leader.
We
It
can't
means
see
I'm
the other
leading
side.
me.
We can't see the whole side.
Somebody got it, yeah? Yes, okay. Can you start there?
I am a leader, but it means I am leading me.
Wow, that's good. You are close. You are close. Okay, I'm moving again.
Even if it means I'm leading me, okay.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So it says there, I'm a leader, even if it means I'm leading me. For those who we were together, I think last two weeks ago. I think most of us who were there. We discussed this topic, and then what we said, because the topic is actually wide and we cannot finish. So we ask our moderator Charles on that day probably to have another session so that we can discuss more. And Charles actually has done very well today because he has widened up our topic a little bit to touch the community. And I'm sure we are not going to finish today, because this topic, as I said the other day, is quite wide, it's quite big. So we will touch whatever we can touch. I know there are some other speakers who will speak as well. So I've got a very few minutes, and I will try my best to utilize the time I have. Don't be so much distracted with that I've written, but this will be a reminder. Even if it distracts you, it's going to remind you that you are a leader, even if it means you are leading you. We discussed and we defined leadership on that day. And the definition that I came with, this is from one of the great, I can say, one of the great teacher about leadership we have today, Dr. Maxwell, John Maxwell. And what he said is simply, leadership is influence. Sorry, sometimes my children are coming in because my wife is in the meeting as well. So I'm coming. Okay, I'm coming. So sorry about that. When you have small children. So yeah. So he came with a definition, very simple definition, that leadership is simply influence. It is influence. And that day when I shared, there is one thing that I put in my slides, that wherever there is two people, one is a leader. And even wherever there is one person, the very person is a leader. Why did I say that? I say that because leadership is influence, and it starts with you. You can influence yourself. Why do I say this? Most people, they think leadership is about having a position. So they wait until when they have a position to assume leadership, or to assume because they're in the position now, they assume leadership when they're in that position. But that is wrong. Leadership starts with yourself, and the position does not make you a leader, but the position exposes you what kind of leader you are. And somebody even went further. This is Dr. Miles Monroe, went further and then said the position actually will expose your ignorance. So you don't wait until when you have a position to be a leader. And the more we understand and we are self-aware that I am a leader, even if it means I lead myself, I am a leader. Because I can influence myself to do positive things or negative things. So leadership starts with you. Start with yourself, and then it goes as we will continue to discuss. You'll see it goes to community, it goes to other aspects, but at first it starts with you. And on that day, one of the things that we came to understand, actually self-leadership is the most difficult. It's the most difficult. It is very easy to lead others, but leading self is difficult. So this is what we are supposed to spend most of our time in order to be effective leaders on ourselves first, leading ourselves to be to be effective self-leader. And if you manage that, then it is going to be even easier, more easier when you are given a position or leading others. But if you cannot lead yourself, it is quite difficult to lead others. And that's why a lot of people, when they are given a position, because they are not good leaders or effective leaders by themselves, then they manipulate people. So most of people actually, when they are given position, they don't lead, they manipulate people. Okay? Because it's easy to manipulate people. But if you're an effective leader, then it means that, you know, you lead by example. Because there is one statement here I've written, that leadership is different from management. Leadership is more about influence, persuasion. Influence and persuasion. Hence, you need to live or lead by example, not by what you say. So it's not about what you say. It's you leading by example. You know, there is this famous statement, especially in Christian arena, where I say, I think they were kind of like accusing some of the preachers who actually say, you need to follow what I say, not what I do. You know, those who don't practice what they preach something else and then they practice something else. You know, so it's common. You don't need to do what I do. Just do what I say. That's not leadership. That's called manipulation. You know, leadership, you lead by example. So it's more about what you do rather than what you say. People will follow you. That's why I say leadership is influence. So people not necessarily following what you say, they need to follow what you do. You need to influence people more by your action, not by your words. because action speak louder than words. Are we together?
Mm.
So when we come to community, I've got very simple definition. It might not be probably agreed by so many scholars, but this is my own definition. Community is simply common unit. Common unit is 2 words, common unit. So it's things that are united, people I can say, or which are united together, they have commonality, you know? So you can be probably, we can say, for example, when you say Reading community, it means that people who are living in Reading. So you are united by Reading because you are living in Reading. If we say, let's say community of footballers, all of us, we are playing football. So you are united by football. So it's a community of footballers. Yeah. If we say, probably, this is negative. So I'm sorry. Community of drug users. You know, these are the people who are using drugs. You know, so that's community. So because we say leadership starts with self, so if we are good leaders, good self leaders, we will live by set standards of value. Why I'm saying that? Because leadership is so much linked to self-discipline. If you can say the key word in self-leadership is a discipline. Is a discipline. Another word, the other day, I say it was self-control. Self-control. You can control self. Charles gave us the statement of one of the guy here that you are the master of your own soul. So self-control. So if we have so many people who are self-disciplined, who live by set standard of values in a community, then eventually that community will be effective. That community will be prosperous because these people, they live by certain standard of values. These people, they are self-disciplined. As Stephen said, that these people, they are proactive. They are not told that you need to wake up at this time because they have set their standard, their values. Nobody tells them to do something. They can control themselves. Okay? So instead of just having a community of people, will have a community of leaders. Imagine you have a community of leaders, people who are living by set standard of values. So eventually, we will have a very prosperous community. So that's why I insist that leadership starts with you. Because if you say, I'm just waiting until when I have position, I'm waiting until when, because I'm just living by myself. I don't have anything. I don't have any position in the community, so I can live anyhow. One of the things I can say is that, first of all, you are selfish because you live somewhere, okay? And you will affect somebody. You will affect somebody. Because leadership is influence. So you will influence somebody. And it's a disaster if you influence somebody negatively. Okay? Let me put it like this. When you come from self-leadership, yeah, you are self, personally, yeah? but you are not living in an island where you live yourself by yourself. You have families, you have friends, you have work colleagues, you have people who you associate with in one way or another. And because we have said that leadership is influence, so you influence somebody as long as you live with other people, you influence them, because leadership is influence. Yeah. So if you are a brother, you influence, probably if you're a young brother, you're a young sister. If you are a father, you'll influence your children. If you're a mother, you influence your children. If you are in a class, you influence your classmates. If you are in an organization, you influence your workmates. And that will replicate in the community, because somebody that you influence will copy some things from you. If it's your laziness, if your lack of morals, they will copy. That's you know. And nowadays we use this word trend, you know. So probably your behavior will trend. It's trending in your, let's say in your organization. Somebody will copy. That's a style. Will go and replicate it. So eventually, it's gonna be in the community, and you wonder, but somehow it came from you. Okay? And at times it's very easy to point fingers on others. Very easy to see the mistakes and shortcomings of others. But what about yourself? Okay? But if you take responsibility, because again, in self-leadership, you are living intentionally. You are doing things intentionally. All right? So it starts with you, and knowing that there are some people who are surrounding me. I've got some siblings. I've got my brothers. I've got my sisters. I've got my work colleagues. So somehow I will affect them with my behavior, with how I conduct myself, with the values that I'm living on. If you are aware of that, then you will set some values and you will live by them. And you will influence people positively. And eventually, the community will be affected positively. All right? So don't wait until, we don't need to wait. Oh, I don't need to wait until when I'm made a leader or in my organization or somewhere. I need just to know, as long as I'm living and there are some people around me, I'm a leader. Even if I'm living in an island, I'm a leader, because I'll influence me. And the sort of behaviors and the character that I build over time, they will affect somebody, because I will influence somebody. If I meet somebody, I will influence that person. How will I affect that person? What kind of influence I'll give that person? And that's why, for example, when you go somewhere in that community, people are using drugs, it's very easy to replicate in the whole community or among young people, you know? We see like fashions and trends. Somebody, especially among celebrities, if he does something, just by doing it and is on social media, some people will copy. I don't know, probably among us here, there are some of us who are celebrities. You have to know, today, if you decide to do something, it will trend, you will affect somebody, will copy you. So you need to ask yourself, if somebody copies me because I'm a role model, what are they going to copy? So if we need to have a prosperous community, it starts with me. It starts with myself. I just want to finish with this few points. Yeah, just few points, and then I will go so that others. So any effective leader has set values, principles which he lives. This is my own quote, that any effective leader has set values and principles which he live or she live by. So you need to be effective leader. You need to live by set values and principles which are governing you. Another statement, if you can master your soul, then you can become an effective leader. If you can master your soul, then you can become an effective leader. What effective leaders do? Number one, they live intentionally. For those who are writing, sorry, today I don't have slides because my wife is in the meeting and then using laptop as well. So, and ladies, you have to, you know, ladies first. So I had to use my phone, you know, because I want to live peaceful. All right. So number one, effective leader. Number one, they live intentionally. Number two, they take responsibility for their action. They take responsibility for their action. Number three, they hold themselves accountable for living below their set values and for the mistake they make. I'll repeat that. They hold themselves accountable for living below their set values, and number two, for the mistakes that they make. I'm going to give tools for self-leadership, key things for effective self-leadership. Number one, self-awareness. I'm not going to explain because of my time. So number one is self-awareness. Effective leaders is self-aware of everything that he does. Number two, self-reflection. You reflect. Yeah, there is self-reflection. Number three, self-regulation. Self-regulation. You can self-regulate as an effective leader. You don't need to wait until your boss tells you something, until your boss tells you, oh, you always come late to work, or you always, you know, dodge or something like that. Yeah, or you always steal something. Yeah, you know, you self-regulate. Yeah, so you have, because you have set values, standard values that you live, and you are aware, you do self-reflection and you self-regulate. And if we will be effective self-leaders or leaders of our own, then eventually that will replicate in the community. Eventually we'll see discipline in the community. We'll see that people achieve great things in the community. We'll see a healthy and prosperous community. But it starts with me and you. So to finish, I'm just going back to my heart here. I am a leader, even if it means that I'm leading myself. I am a leader. Thank you.
Can we ask a question?
I see Steve. Oh, there he is. Steve is moderating. Go on, Steve.
Hello?
Of course, if the moderator is allowing question at this moment, or if it's until when everybody speaks, yeah, I'm free to take questions.
So,
well, I think if we can, keep the questions coming, and then let's have a wider discussion in the end. You know,
All right.
maybe other speakers may, you know, chip in. So if you have a question, just pop it on our, you know, chat zone or write it down. And then in the end, after we finish, we can all, you know, chip in and, you know, share, you know, maybe add up your, I think that would be better if we do that way. That's my proposition.
All right.
Yeah. Now, without wasting any more time, I'm going to welcome Cecily. Cecily, are you there?
Yes, I am here,
Wow.
Stephen.
Yes, Cecily, amazing. Nice to hear your voice again.
Thank you.
All right. So, yeah, Cecily, I think we know Cecily, but I'm going to introduce Cecily as I know her. Cecily Moniki, she is an amazing lady, very influential in the community, and she does amazing stuff, to be honest. She is an author. She got 12 books, 12, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 12 books, you know, and I have got, I think one or two of her books. And she is,
Yeah, one. You should have more than one.
well, I'll add more because I love books. And for the work that she does in community, really, the community has really recognized her, and she has a few awards, really, as for what she's been doing in a wider community. And she specializes, if I can say, she likes to address in the area of mental health and inequality. And she is a founder of To Live Women Group, and as well as CM Network. And she strives daily, and she seeks to be the change that the community want to see. She will maybe add up in one or two things herself, but without wasting any time, I just want to welcome her and welcome Cecily.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Stephen and Charles, for the opportunity. And if you don't mind, Charles, is it okay if I can have access to sharing?
Absolutely. Let me
okay?
give you those permissions. 1 second. You wanted to share a screen, right?
Yes, and as you do.
I believe
Now, as you
can
do
it
that,
now.
Paul, I really love your. Yeah, that's fine. I really love your presentation, and really your explanation almost captures what I was about to say, but I'll say it anyway.
Thank you.
And really, Charles, thank you. When I saw the topic that you put out there, it really resonated with my core values, especially where you talked about, I mean, I subscribe to all what you mentioned there, you know, community well-being. Now, when we think about well-being, we are talking about that state of, you know, wellness, where you are able to fulfill your potential. And when Paul was describing leadership and coming up with the concept of self-leadership, he clearly, I mean, self-leadership is about, you know, that state where you can, you know, fulfill your potential. And leader in general, leadership is about influence. You know, it's about influence. And above it all is that self-leadership. Without self-leadership, of course, bearing in mind that it's about influence, then the whole purpose of being in this world ceases to live. So that self-leadership helps you. You will become a leader in the wider, you know, perspective. That state of being able to influence others. And again, Paul also went further to say, you know, that self-leadership is about, you know, self-awareness, self-regulation, and whatever it is that you call self, because that is what will motivate you and inspire you to go out there and be the change that you are seeking. So then you'll have no chance to point at fingers, you know, of what has not been done. Instead, you throw yourself out there and go and do it and influence others to join you. And that way you make the change that you are all seeking. So then that calls for educating self, you know, self-education. How much are you educating yourself to be that change? So in describing that, I thought I share three slides here with you, just to make it more clearer. And I hope I can do that, okay? Sorry, I may have to stop sharing. Oh. Now, I hope you can all see that.
Yep.
No,
I see.
Are we together?
no.
No.
You might need to share it again. If you're already sharing, you might need to stop sharing and then try again. Hello? Cecily?
We have lost her.
She seems to have gone offline. She seems she's gone offline. I'll tell you what, Steve. Hello, Steve.
Yes, yes, Charles.
While Cecily, you're back. Hi, Cecily. Yeah, I think she's back. Let's let her carry on. You're on mute, Cecily.
All right, I was asking, can you all see that?
We can, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic, yeah. So sorry to have lost you there a bit. So if I go from the beginning, and the image you see there explains how that can be, and really it's nothing new other than what Paul expressively explained there. So it's about influence, it's about teamwork, it's about, responsibility, taking responsibility, and that is where self-leadership comes in. It's about motivation. It's about thinking about inclusion. So we are talking of ethnic here, and it's about vision and about so many other things that you can see there. But beyond all that, it's about knowing the influence that you bring in to yourself and to the wider community. So you remain the chief, but as a leader, you are providing all the other necessary things that are possible, that are needed to be given. So what does that mean? I'm so glad that in the chat or in the forum, there are familiar faces, and perhaps some of them will know my story and the journey I have been through. And when it comes to leadership, it's all about consistency. If you're hoping to influence yourself and the people around you, you have to be consistent in what you're doing. And I'm saying that in light of community engagement. Most of you, all of us here, we have that passion to be the change. And when we talk of the change, we look at it from a wider perspective. And we know that we start as a group, but only a few people are left towards the end. And the goal is that you all end together. However, it's not always the case. So that means who live along the way and have not been consistent enough to keep up to the journey. And journey being that journey of meeting the vision that you have all set yourself to achieve. So consistency must be the name of the game, must be key to the game. And then again, it's about being vulnerable enough to say we have made mistakes along the way. In other words, stopping, reflecting, and saying, yes, we don't have to do this way here. We need to do it the other way. Then that allows for people to come and challenge you, but in a positive way. So challenging here means you don't take it personal, but take it as a way of meeting or achieving the vision that you have all set together. Remember, it's about influencing. Yeah, it is about influencing. And the third point I want to mention is about, never giving up. Of course, which goes in line with the consistency. And the not giving up positive attitude. In what attitude are you carrying on? Are you looking at others and thinking the fact that they are not following you, they do not buy in what you are doing? So it's about having a positive mindset in order to move on. But it is also about integrity. It is also about integrity, because integrity will determine the decisions that you make, which will be, and those out or you are wanting to achieve. Now, when all this is done, it then leads to ownership. So right from the beginning, there should be an element of ownership. And again, that's where self-leadership comes in. You are inviting everybody to own whatever project that you are all working towards. And in that ownership, it means as a leader, you are positively influencing them by enabling them to achieve whatever it is you have set yourself to achieve. In other words, it is about to enabling you achieve the vision. And the way you appreciate that is by giving them chances to deliver at once the vision in whichever way that they set themselves to. So you don't look at what they yell, but who they yell and what they are bringing in. So in that sense, it means that it's waking up and making that difficult call sometimes that you need to call. And having a mindset that they'll either, pick it or not pick it, but whatever you do, make that call and make that difficult ask, make that difficult conversation, as long as it is once achieving the vision. So when then it comes to the influencing element, you're thinking about who is it within your circles can do one or two things. Who is it in the wider community can you talk to? Or who is it that sits in that decision-making table that you can have a word with to inform whatever objective that you are hoping to, to achieve. So it's thinking about all those skill sets that are around and all what you
Hello, Cecily.
You are going away.
leadership. Oops.
For some reason, you're breaking
Can
up.
you hear me?
Now we can, yes. You broke up for a couple of seconds there. So you might want to backtrack a few seconds.
All right. Okay. So the challenge there, or something to be avoided, is following a leader who reaches somewhere and says, I have no idea where we are going or where I am going. Yeah. And so, this is about having no vision or no direction. If you're around such a person, please stay away or help them understand what you can offer to help them steer to the vision that you set yourself. And the worst of the leaders are leaders probably who, instead of embracing what people have, they end up making, bad decisions which deflate what people already have. So be aware of that. But the last point I want to mention is on which leaders you need to embrace. Who then should you embrace? In thinking about that, I thought of a cockroach or a jogo. I know most of you speak Swahili here. A chicken, the cockroach itself, and an eagle. Now, if you're able to see that image of the cockroach, you'll notice that it is leading. It's in the middle of the river, while the other chicken are actually on the bank. In other words, the cockroach is leading the way, while the chicken observe. So as a leader, you must be strong enough to lead the way. And that means accepting and actually communicating your vulnerabilities and allowing people ask difficult questions, in which case they will not be difficult because you understand the vision quite well. And so you have no fear in whichever direction you take. Hence, you are able to cross the river like we have the cockroach there. And in the midst of it, even if you don't have anybody following, if you buy so much so into the vision, you still continue on the journey without turning back. I also thought about the eagle. Now, those who are in the line of management and leadership will understand we understand how important an eagle is, and the lessons that it brings. No wonder Americans have an eagle as their as their emblem or their logo. And the statement there says, celebrate your successes even when there are strong adversities or in times of difficulties. In this case, it means you have to embrace the good times and the bad times and bring people along with you. So thinking about an ego, talk about inclusion. If you have seen an eagle fly, they fly in a, they work together. I mean, they align themselves in such a way that there is none that is left behind. But if for whatever reason one ends up having a fall, it will be picked by others. So it's about being inclusive. It's about working together, and about educating those who cannot, who probably don't buy into the vision, or buy into the vision and somewhere along the line, they drift back. How can you bring them back again? So it's again about remaining focused and thinking big. Remember, your vision must be big enough to achieve it. And it's also about remaining into targets. Do you have targets? What targets are you meeting? And it's about flying high, but as I've said, remaining focused. Now, there are so many lessons we can learn from the ego, but those few will help us remain focused when it comes to thinking about leadership, influencing. Who are you talking to? Which places are you known? Do you align yourself to what is needed in the community? Do you understand the strategies that have been set by either the council or the health? And when we
Hello, Cecily. Are you still there?
There's a problem.
Did she disappear again?
Yeah.
Cecily, can you hear us? No, I think
Maybe
You're on mute. I can see you talking, Cecily, but you're on mute.
All right. Sorry. Yeah, my internet dropped, but I've actually finished.
Yeah.
I have finished. And what I wanted to mention there is, you know, let's remain focused and above all, work with everybody else. So at that point, I can say thank you and really wish you a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cecily. Thank you so much, Cecily.
That's okay.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Cecily. We really appreciate your contribution. And possibly I might ask for slides. I know you go, I like the chicken being in front running. So that was really good. I'm going to request privately for the slides. And I hope everybody really enjoyed and had a great time as we are proceeding. And without wasting any more time, I'm going to welcome our sister, Sister Sharon Gitau. And profiling, I'm going to try my best to say what little I know, and she may possibly amplify and then, But Sharon Gitau is an informed trauma practice practitioner. She also worked for IFI UK to empower BME communities and to have a voice through inclusion by aligning statutory bodies in communities. She's a leader in her own right with great passion on empowering individuals, families, and communities. So more than that, Sharon, you're welcome, and you can maybe correct what I've just said, but you're welcome to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Charles. I wouldn't be correcting much because I think my role is more inclusion. I am not a big title person. I just do the work and somehow people get to know me in organizations. But for people who want to know, my journey really started with, I do mentorings for women and children, but I also work, I am a trauma-informed practice practitioner. So I work with a diverse group of people who've gone through trauma, be it asylum, be it sexual abuse, domestic violence, like prison. So I work with all families that have gone through trauma. But then within the coming years, I have developed a passion in inclusion of enabling all ethnic groups. So the white, because there is white ethnic groups and the black ethnic groups to be heard and to have a voice in this community because they're part of the participants. So I sit with social services, I sit with polices, I sit with doctors, and we look at where they're going wrong in terms of including communities. I sit with communities and we look at their role in not being included, because I like what Paul said and I like what Cecily said. It's about also individual responsibility. It starts with self. So I'm not going to go too much into the self bit of it because that has been covered really well. So I'm going to look at the last bit of it, the importance of sound leadership in the community. What's the role of sound leadership in the community? So I'm going to look at the community aspect because I feel like Cecily and Paul have covered the self aspect in great detail. So I had here written, my first slide was, you are all leaders within your own rights, but I don't want to go into the self because I think that's been covered so thoroughly. I'll go straight into the community. I am a lover of giving people books to read. So before I start my slides, I will go into the 3 books I wanted to recommend today. They're all by John Maxwell. The first one is 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. So the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. The second book is Leadership. And the third book is The 5 Levels of Leadership. Yeah? Yes, Charles. I can send you the screen.
Can you repeat again? I'm writing them down. Can you just quickly?
So the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
Yeah.
The second book is Leadership. So leader and as in shift, like you're going for a shift.
Okay.
And the other one is 5 Levels of Leadership.
Thank you.
So I'll look at the role of leadership in the community, and the role of leadership in the community, really, we look at what you call an egalitarian leader. So an egalitarian leader is leadership who favors equality. So the role of a leader in the community is to bring that equality. Equality means a division of power for the leader and the people who are being led. So a lot of the parameters of the role of leadership in the community stands down through what you call the social egalitarian leadership, which is a social stratification. So the strategies we use are strategies that help communities feel empowered. So we do not work on people, we work with people. That's the role of a leader in the community. And when I was thinking, what is being a strong leader? How can you categorize the role of a leader who empowers community? I kind of came up with 4 things. So the first key category, or the first key value of a leader who is leading in an egalitarian way, who's empowering people, is affirming communities. So today, we've had leaders here who've affirmed you by giving you positive words, positive ways of life, positive acknowledgement, your strengths, showing you ways that you can develop your self-leadership. That's all the role of a community leader, to affirm what the community has, affirm the goodness of the community, affirm the businessmen in the community, affirm the skills of the mothers, the skills of the children, the skills of everybody in the community. And that helps, that then identifies you as what Cicely was saying, a leader who's like the cock. You help people to develop their power. You don't do things for them. You stand there and show them how to go, and then you help them build the skills to go on and do their work. The second role of a community leader, I feel, is to acknowledge the areas of growth. So a very key piece of work I've been doing with our community that I've been working with at the moment is nobody can do to you what you do not allow them to do. So if you feel oppressed, you are a participant in that oppression, whether consciously or subconsciously. So I've been talking to leaders in our community, especially the BME community, is we should then stop that mentality of we are being done for things, but help our community understand how they have participated in their own disadvantage, and then empower the community to come out of that. So acknowledge that we have areas of growth. A good leader, I was saying one of the key skills I had to learn as a leader is what we call losing introspective ignorance. You know, when you're a leader sometimes and you feel like, I'm a leader, I know everything, I'm just, and I get it. That's the most dangerous place to be. Leadership calls for day-to-day, what you are being told, self-awareness, introspection, listening when people talk. When people come to you and challenge you, do you listen to understand, or do you listen to answer? Where are you as a leader? Are you a leader who listens to respond to what is being said, or do you listen to understand? I would call you to listen as leaders, as developing leaders, to understand. Listen to people to understand. When you feel the police are oppressing you, when you go for the meeting the first time, go for that meeting and listen to understand. Then respond. So listening to understand, identifying this is our area of growth, this is the area we need the other person to grow. So for me, that's another key parameter of a good leader in the community, a leader who's going to develop and empower people in the community. I think the third most useful parameter that has been mentioned here a lot by Cicely and by Paul is accountability. Who takes responsibility? Who takes accountability? So a lot of the key parameters of leadership in the community is helping the community understand the importance of them taking accountability. Your life in this country, how it looks, is not necessarily because you're Black. It's because of how accountable you are to yourself. One of the things I teach the children is, because you came from Africa, I am crossing that mindset that you cannot thrive in this job or any job. Do we tell our children that the only jobs they can do is nursing? Or do we tell them that the mindset they should have is they can thrive as long as they're accountable? The other thing is, in terms of accountability, I said to somebody, I was speaking in a group of leaders and I was saying, how many leaders here have vision boards? Everybody put their hand up. Okay, we have a vision board. That's fine. Where is it? It's on the wall. I wake up in the morning and I see it. But then it got a bit difficult when I say to people, now, this is where you want to get in terms of your goals. Yes. How many hours do you spend in your strategy plan to get to your goal? So they had a vision, but some of them, maybe their goal is about getting into education to train. They spend 1 hour a week to get to their goal. And then they were wondering why they're struggling to get to your goal. I'm like, but your vision doesn't match your plan. So when you have a vision and your goal, leadership in the community is also teaching our communities that when you have your vision, your strategy plan, the amount of time and effort you put has got to match your vision. There's no point of having a vision to buy 4 houses and not having a strategy plan and working 1 shift a month and saying that's going to get you to buy the 4 houses. Because surely the vision doesn't match the strategy. So when you have visions as a community, have strategies that match, have plans that match, and that is a good leader will check in. So we have weekly accountability groups where people meet and we actually talk. This is the task you have. I don't know if you know at a web page called Asana. So we go on Asana and check on each other and see, has somebody done their daily goals? How much time have they spent on their daily tasks? So one of the good things about a leader who holds people accountable is checking that their vision as a group matches the time and effort they're putting in for their goals. I think another key one is responsibility. Where do you develop from self-responsibility to communal responsibility? What are the boundaries of your community in terms of responsibility? So am I only responsible to the community on the day of the meeting like this? Or does my character and integrity reflect that responsibility? If we come to your house as community leaders or as a community leader, so we check up on each other in our houses as community leaders, are you leaving with us? Will your family feel that leadership skill? Or are you the kind of leader who's very good to everybody out there and your family dreads the moment you get into the house? The kids are like, oh my God, he's here again. Does your family feel the impact of what you're giving to the outside world in terms of our community? Do you take time to understand how your children are being here and develop their leadership skills as well as develop the community? Or do you take more effort in the community? Because really, I am a believer of charity begins at home. I think the final parameter we look at in terms of leadership is tangible growth. So we do something called annual meetings to groups and communities that we support in terms of inclusion. And one of the things I say is, it doesn't matter whether you've had 500 tangible growths or you've had 1. But if you're doing effective leadership in the community, there has to be tangible growth. Is there tangible results? Whether it is to little children, whether it is to families, whether it is to you yourself. I think there's something I discourage in terms of my leadership training group is that thing where people come and say, oh, well, I tried, but because of COVID and I went to work, at least it was on my vision, but I tried and I didn't get, no. Let's get to the bottom of that why. Why was your why not met? What changed something to get you to the tangible growth? I always say to somebody, if you're not in a position, I say to some of my trainees, you're ready for leadership, the amount of effort that's needed, you're either really busy, you may not be able to put in the work. So what I suggest is first concentrate on that thing you're doing and then come and be able to put in the work for tangible growth. If there's no tangible growth in the books you're reading, so I say to people, let's not do shelf development. There's people when you go to their houses, their shelves are full of books, their shelves are full of projects and PDFs of meetings they've gone to. But what is the tangible growth that your family is experiencing, you are experiencing, the community is experiencing as a form of self-development? Does self-development, these meetings you're coming here, do they count to how you're growing? So for effective community leadership, do you go back to your communities and see what the tangible growth is? And tangible growth could be, these are the really positive things that we achieved. These are the things, I like to call them areas of growth, or areas of challenges. I don't call them failures. What can we do in these areas we didn't do so well? That's still a tangible way forward. Or do we just say, now that's done, let's go back, next year we'll come and talk about nothing? Do you go back and capture what you've done? When you come from a session like this, do you go back and capture after a month? Last month we did this. What did I grow from that course I went to? What is the tangible evidence? So I think as a leader, if you're not having tangible growth, then you need to do a bit of introspection in terms of community leadership. Where are we? And it's not where you're going wrong, it's where do we need to work on? I think the other thing for me that strong leadership in the community has is introspection. Leadership in the community is a very humbling experience. It can never be worked from a place of pride. It can never be worked from a place of the ego. You've got to be able to look at yourself and hear others, even when they're saying what you don't want to hear. You've got to be able to look at yourself as a servant. True leadership is service. I like to say what Jesus said, if you're not ready to serve, then really you're not ready to lead. So true leadership is service. Do you lead from a point of service? Do you look inward? So one of the key things that I used to struggle with, and I'm happy to be vulnerable, when I started community leadership, is when the community didn't go or hit their target, I would wonder, what's wrong with them? And I remember going to my mentor and I'm saying, but I'm trying to explain all this. I'm getting all these books. I'm getting all this training. What's going on? And my mentor said, when you see what's happening in your community as a leader, look inwards. What's happening in you? And it was tracked back to not having enough self-belief to my team. And therefore, I was giving them the skill, but I wasn't giving them the push and the energy to really do the work because I didn't have enough self-belief in them. So I will challenge you as community leaders, when sometimes you feel in a place where things are not exploring, before you point the finger outwards to your communities and what maybe your treasurer is not doing, or your leaders are not doing, or your trainees are not doing, have some introspection within yourself. One of the key trainings I've had that's been quite vital in my life individually as well is whenever I see what's happening in my outside environment, I always check what's happening in my internal environment. When you're able to shift what you call your internal compass, whenever you locate a failure or a negative thing outside your external compass, you're not able to effect change. Change comes from within. So whenever you are able to locate things from an internal compass, that brings about power to bring about change. So I'm going to challenge you as leaders, look within your internal compass. One of the greatest thing I think for me, I struggled with when the Black Lives Movement came was we were all angry, all these things are happening and everything. But then what was our part in there? It could be the acceptance of how many ethnic people in this community. I've gone to communities where there's a wealth of education, there's a wealth of knowledge, there's a wealth of experience, there's a wealth of expertise amongst the ethnic people. But do you dim your light so that other people can fit in? Do you dim your light as a result of a Black mindset? So I'm not gonna shine and I'm not gonna try and put my education forward because I'm too scared of rejection. So then are you participating in your own oppression? So part of leadership is helping our communities come out of that mindset where they're participating in their own oppression. Go give those degrees. Go shine your light. Let them try and switch it off a couple of times. There's going to be somebody who holds your light and says, actually, it doesn't matter what ethnicity you come from. This light is shining. You've got something to say. And I think that's the basis of leadership. I think the greatest and the fundamental part, and I think the job I think I'm finding of our ethnic leadership and the role of the strongest thing of leadership is shifting mindset. Shifting mindsets. as leaders, are we looking at the narratives that are in our communities? Where did the narrative come that all Black people can only do these jobs? Where did the narrative come from that all Black people are oppressed? Where did the narrative come from that only Asians can own shops? Where did those narratives come from? Are we challenging our communities to look at these narratives? Because unless we change as leaders, challenge our communities to change our inner story, we're never going to change our outside story. So again, I'm calling you as leaders to change the narrative. Look at the mindset that has brought the narrative. What narrative do you have? I'm going to speak to women here as women. Where did the story come from that if you're a woman, you're successful, you cannot be a good wife or submissive? Where did that story come from? Where did the story come from that Black men are aggressive? Because the Black men I know are not aggressive. Are we challenging these things? Are we changing these things in our children? As community leaders, are we talking about these things? Why are we afraid to talk about domestic violence in homes, in churches, in our community? Why are we afraid to voice the fact that as Christians, we may not be like homophobic or anything, but we may not be accepting of gays and those kind of relationships. We have a right to our voice. Where is the narrative that we have to be quiet? Where is that coming from? Having said that, I think the other thing I found in training key leaders and the importance of the role of a leader in the community is teaching people how to have their voice. So one of the things I've been hearing a lot of ethnic communities saying is, oh, we've got our power back. We've gone and done this and done that and done that. Being assertive does not equal being aggressive. You can go into an office, follow policy, have your voice heard without being angry. Where did the narrative that we have to be angry to voice and to get our needs met as ethnic people come from? So it's about bringing all those issues together, but giving ourselves a voice. I always say when I talk about community leadership, one of the narratives I build with every community is ethnic communities are a realm and a well of power and strength. Do you know how much strength you have as a community? Do you know how much power? I think if Charles, you went round here, the number of skills that are here, you'd probably be shocked. The level of education that's here is shocked. So like we were being told about self-development, what's stopping us from pushing forward that wealth here? I'm going to go a bit biblical because I am a woman of faith and I still coach with faith. And I'm going to say to you, if God sent you here, God knew you could push through and succeed here, not from the bottom up, from the up. So why are you not pushing forward? What's the narrative? And I am going to be very vulnerable and say, I am a woman who's had to work so hard in this country to change that narrative. When I started doing trauma practice, I have been through a realm of trauma in this country. But I chose to change that narrative. I chose to be that powerful, to bring that powerful child within you. When all of us are coming from Africa, we come with big dreams, we come with big ideas, we come with big hopes. At what point in our journey here do we shelf that? And I want to challenge each of you. Can you go back and pick your big dreams? Can you go back and pick your big ideas? Can you go back and align with God and ask God, because these things are visions you gave to me. How do they align in this nation? Because when you're called to a nation, you're called with your dreams and your big ideas and your big hopes. At what point in your journey here did you shelve them? Because part of that as leaders is pulling out those big dreams. How as leaders do you pull out those big dreams? How do you pull out those hopes? How do you pull out those great expectations? I don't know if there's anybody who was told from Africa, they're coming here and they just expected to be, I'll say from where I started, they just expect to be starting in care. I didn't expect that. Who expected that? I expected to come into a straight 3-bedroom car parked outside. That was a bigger expectation that wasn't realistic. But you know the things you see in telly. But where did we lose our expectations? I'm not saying about tangible, just tangible like things. I'm not materialistic. I'm very minimalistic, by the way. I like to be minimal if I can. But where did we lose our dreams? Where did we lose our hopes? Where did we lose our goals to just existing, to just feeling like we're oppressed? And how have we worked on that? I think the final thing I need to say when I talk about all of you being leaders is, even though all of us are leaders in our own right, like Cicely said, a community needs a pack. Are you supporting your pack leaders? Because in every leadership community, God chooses people. Are you supporting your pack leaders? The pack leaders in the community, are you working as a team, or are you isolating yourselves as leaders? Because if you look at it scientifically, it is only things that are aligned together that work. If you look at it biblically, the Lord says, when two stand together, there is a blessing. So there cannot be a blessing if people stand separated. So if you're community leaders, are you standing in isolation, or are you standing within the teams of your community? If your communities, because you have to identify in a community that you all can't be community leaders at the same time. Are you supporting your community leaders? Because one of the things I found out in ethnic communities, we spend a lot of time facing outwards, but we don't support our own community leaders. Can I get a bit closer to home? An African man can open a business here and I'll go to an Asian man's shop and leave my fellow African business there. So how can we blame others of doing well while we're not supporting our own? So as community leaders, are we challenging ourselves? Do you know what? There's nothing that makes me proud than to drive all the way to Reading. There's this Ghanaian shop to buy hair because he's a Ghana man. I'm like, I need to invest in this one so that my seed is sown. Are we supporting our leaders as communities? Are we supporting our pack leaders? Community leaders, are you aligning and staying in the teams of your community? Are you supporting your community followers? Are we supporting our own? I'm not saying don't support the other businesses. That's not what I'm saying. Because like I said, I'm all about egalitarianism, power for the community. But are we supporting our own before we support others? So for instance, I think a clear example is I made a very clear decision about 2 years ago. There's a lady I used to know from one country in Africa where she used to sell clothes because of her situation. And I just decided, because she's able to get the clothes from Africa, that I'm never going to Primark, I'm never going to Next, I'm never going to that. And I just predominantly buy clothes there. What that has given her is an income for her children when she's struggling. Are you able to support each other? Because if you're calling for the society to change, and we're marching out there for the society to change, as leaders, are we telling our community that we also need to change? Change begins from home. And I think that's for me, the last question I can leave you guys is what 3 changes can you make in the future to support each other as a community? The leaders to support your followers, and your followers to support leadership, because empower, and your followers to support the leaders, because unless we support each other, and when I mean support, I don't mean support each other just when we're doing right. Do you hold each other when people get things wrong? Are you compassionate and empathic to each other when things go wrong? Or do you blame each other? Or do you laugh at each other? Or do you point fingers at each other? As community leaders, are we teaching our communities it's okay to fail? I am a leader, I can get things wrong. You need to hold me up. Hey, today is my day, please hold me up. Are we teaching each other, okay, so-and-so has fallen, what he's done is probably not very good, but they're acting from a place of maybe being broken. Can you give us time to work with so-and-so? And really, are we giving the redeeming space for people, or as communities, are we shutting people out? Because I think for me, it's easy to go out there and tell the social side, the police, they bring back stuff to Black people. But unless ethnic people, we start loving and caring for each other from a space of within, where we understand we are all not perfect, and really support each other, how do we make that change? And for me, that's the biggest role of the community. Care, nurture each other, correct each other in love, bear each other. Sometimes it's hard, and I can tell you that sometimes it's hard. I've got to do a bit of crying before I can bear my friend and bear my brother, but are we doing that? And I think that's my last question. What 3 changes can you make in future to support yourselves as a community? Thank you. Over to you, Steve.
Wow.
Wow.
What can we say now?
Oh, God.
Yeah, that has been really amazing stuff. And I believe that everyone has really enjoyed, you know, and we can clap, I can say, to be honest. Well done, Sharon. We really appreciate that. Was great points. Yeah, so we are just on the dot. So Charles, you're the one been picking up some questions here, I believe. So if we can spend another 6 minutes to answer quickly any questions before we close, please. So I'm gonna apologize. We're gonna just override for about 6 minutes and to see if there is any question that need clarification.
Yeah, Ben had a question earlier. Ben had a question earlier. So go on, Ben.
Yes, thank you very much, the moderator. And I think I want to ask or to make one general observation in form of observation and question and asking for help, because I think the 3 presenters, Paul, Cecily, and Sharon, have dealt with very significant live information for the people, those of us who have come here. And my own observation is about who accesses this type of information, because I'm aware of many groups about existence of many groups of people like us who are here and who specialize in forming their own small structural cocoons on ethnic background. And what they do is to propagate what is happening in their home countries and do very little in doing what they are here to do or what can benefit them and their families and even those who are back there in the home countries. And I am very concerned because this type of information that we have had today, I would like to challenge the presenters to do a type of baseline survey to find out the percentages of those of us who are here who access this type of information, because I think it's a very small percentage. And I think this is a matter of life and death to miss or to access this type of education, information, and training. Because as it has been said, I think the worst enemy of any human being is ignorance. Because with ignorance, you think what you know is all what matter, and it can help you to push your life, and you don't know what you are missing. So my concern is for our fellow people of color, as they are told, or called, or BIM, and so on. And especially on this line of supporting one another, and gaining confidence, and using skills, and getting the knowledge that you can be as good as anybody else here. You are not limited because of your ethnic, your background, and those type of things. So, and this is an area I would like us to investigate further, because if we are encouraged and we encourage others and we reach out to everybody, I think we can do wonders and stop some of these selfish things that we do, running after money, and that's all. And we are wasting our lives and lives of our children and grandchildren, for those of us who are a little bit elderly. So that is my comment.
Right, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Can
Charles,
I comment
back
on
to
that,
you.
Stephen?
Hello?
Can I comment on that? On what my brother shared?
30 seconds.
All right. Number one, thank you very much for what you have shared. It's very, very important. And I think we as a community, especially by what my sister Sharon shared, we really need to change our perspective. There is one point she shared here, that true leadership is about service. And I think one of the problems that we have in our community, we always think about me and myself. And if you go far, probably my family. But we are not thinking about our community or community as a whole. Leadership is about service. You don't serve yourself, you serve others. So if we will come out, as my brother said, come out of our cocoon and think of others, and we are here. So what are we gonna do for our community here? Because if you go and see Asian community, you see other community, they are doing very well because they have that sense of community. They serve, they help one another to excel here, you know. So I think and another key thing is about valuing information and valuing knowledge. You know, I know Charles, the first time when Charles started, he had 50 people here, or 50 plus. But our people, they don't value information. They don't value education. You know, so I think we need to encourage one another to value things like this. For example, what Sister Sharon shared today, actually, Sister Sharon, I want you to be my mentor, because what you have shared is wow. Wow. I'll follow you. I will just search after you. Charles, I'm just gonna call you just after this program.
I'll follow all of you. All of you.
Yeah, I'm also coming.
Yeah, all of you.
If it was in Reading, I will be I'm not refusing to mentor anybody, but
Yeah.
what I do with a few is alongside empowering communities. So
Yeah.
I'm all about to follow. So I am not a man. I can mentor you some things. I wouldn't be able to mentor you some things. So go behind Charles and Steve, and I will come for you there.
But I'm a
When
woman,
you're
so
there,
I'm
I
coming.
will get you. The programs will get you. The books will get you. It's
Yeah.
about empowering that community. So you've got your key people there, and I work under them.
Wonderful.
So I will run after them. Run after them, and you'll get me.
Wonderful.
That's great. That's great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And I think also, based on the first definition of who a leader is, the fact that you're here, you are a leader. So who are you influencing?
Yes.
In your circle, you have quite a number. So what difference are you making in them? And that leader will expand the forum that we are in now and many others to come. So what leadership are you sharing out there?
Hello, Sister June, you had a contribution. Do you want to come in?
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, amazing people. That was really, really eye-opening. And I just have two comments because of time. You know, when Auntie Cecily was showing that image of a leader and with the bubbles, like I am not even sure where I'm going. I think something came into my mind, and I thought also as a leader, I think one of the responsibility a leader has is to make the people who are following them to really understand why are they actually following that person. Because if we consider each one of us as a leader, it means we have an area which is our strength. It's an area which we can influence. And therefore, what makes me to follow you, Auntie Cecily, has to be something that will also add value to me in my area where I will be able to influence others. And therefore, that's why you see maybe we are only 20-something in this platform today, because maybe other people are following other people where they think that is where their passion or their vision is. So sometimes I think as a leader, if you're a true leader, you need to really know those people who are following you, what are they bringing in that group, but what are they also going to get from that group that will help them to become fruitful or significant in areas out of yourself. Or else I think sometimes we can get carried away and just want to kind of bring a crowd. You know, we just have people who are following us and then they just become followers. But as a leader, you ought to equip them to also become people who will also lead other people, not just to be followers of someone. And that's why I was kind of thinking it shouldn't reach a point where, you know, people are kind of even asking themselves, what actually am I doing here? Because the person himself who they're following is not even aware of where they're going. Before I get involved in something, I really need to know, is it in line with what my purpose is? Is it in line with what I desire to achieve in life? And therefore, when I come to this platform, I know that I will get some skills which will equip me to become a better person and be more significant to the people who are around me. So I think I just wanted to bring out that one. And then another one, when Sharon was talking about, you know, supporting our own. I think also as a leader in the community, when we are talking about supporting our own, we also need to consider that aspect of equipping people to raise up their standard. Because we sometimes I think we kind of look so down on ourselves to the extent we carry that mentality when we are to start programs. So we kind of start mediocre things. So if I am a leader and I see somebody who is starting something in a community like a project, I ought to equip that person to raise their standards so that when they are there in the marketplace, they are visible. We don't want people doing shortcuts. We don't want people doing things that are not of standard. So as a community leader, one of the things we ought to kind of identify these individuals, equip them to meet the standard. If we are talking of high standards, the British standards or whatever standards which are set in the community, we also aim to make people know that they can reach there, and so that we don't kind of become shredded out simply because we have not met the standards. So I thought as a leader, we kind of need to look at those two areas for those who we are influencing.
Wow, that is powerful stuff. That is really, really powerful. Thank you so much, Jim. Thank you, everyone that brought all the contributions and our contributors, Cecily, Paul, Sharon. This has been so eye-opening. Guys, if I show you my notes, I've been writing notes, I've been scribbling. I've got more than 2 pages full of notes that I've been scribbling points, and it's just points like that. It's been like wonderful. This is really good, and I think this is the whole point of having these conversations, because I think we need these conversations in our communities. I've always said that I feel our communities, especially the minority communities here in the UK, we suffer so much because of lack of robust leadership. And by leadership, I don't mean having people in positions of power necessarily, but I mean having these principles embedded in our lives, in our daily endeavors, really sort of like encouraging one another, really looking up to each other, really pushing it, the agenda, our own agenda, ourselves. You know, for instance, I was looking at this BLM movement and the issues to do with social justice and all these things. It's almost like sometimes we look outwards, we look at for a white savior, if you like, almost like you want someone else from outside to come and save us. But no, I mean, we can determine our own fate on these issues, and it's leadership within our communities that can start bringing those changes. How can we change ourselves? How can we raise the bar, as Sister Jim so eloquently put it? How can we raise the standard? How can we start holding ourselves to a higher standard of accountability? How can we change these things? And that's what leadership is. And I think we've really touched some really key points, really important points there.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll put them into practice and make a difference in our lives. If you would allow me, let me just point one thing that I wanted to say. And it's about heroes. I think one of the areas that we really struggle in our communities is that we do not have heroes.
Yes.
We don't celebrate heroes well enough. I mean, any thriving community has heroes. I remember when I was growing up, we used to have these heroes' tales. I don't know, people from different communities would know. In any community, in any culture, you have tales about heroes, people that did great things in the past. Some of these mystical figures, I don't even know if these stories are true or not. Some of the things are so legendary, but you need those stories, you need those heroes. Because why? Because they lift a community to believe that they can do better, to believe in greater things. Now, the problem with most of our communities, especially diasporans, is that we lack heroes. Our children grow up not having successful people that they can look up to,
Role model.
to them. For instance, our children, when they're aspiring to be doctors, how many Black doctors do they know out there? If they're aspiring to be astronauts, how many Black astronauts do they know out there? If they're aspiring to be scientists or businessmen, how many businessmen do they know them to be out there? I mean, don't get me wrong, you've got lots of these people who look like us and they're out there, but the problem with our communities is that we don't celebrate them enough. We don't bring them into the community. There is this tendency that as you become more successful as a Black man, and this you get this when you speak to most of these successful Black men, as you become more successful as a Black man, rather than tending closer to the center of your community, you tend to go farther away into the fringes of the community. And I see this. I mean, for instance, there are so many Tanzanian doctors. For instance, I'm from Tanzania. So many Tanzanian doctors in the UK, but you don't see them right in the thick of the Tanzanian community here in the UK. They tend to be farther on the fringes. Why is that so? There are so many, successful people in lots of different areas, in business, and lots of other things, but we don't quite bring them in the fold of things. We don't quite celebrate them enough to a point that we can look at them and raise that standard and say, like, hey, if they can do it, we can do it. Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to what you see others doing, that you can say that if he did it, then I can do it. There was this funny story in America. There's this teacher who was during the lockdown. He was teaching and was doing experiments online, and I was watching him on YouTube and showing kids what can be done. And he's a Black man. And this child, they were interviewing this child about this guy and say, why is this guy inspiring you so much? This Black child said something so striking. He said, this guy looks like me. That's the first statement that this child said. This guy looks like me, and he does incredible stuff. So the reason this child was so fascinated by this teacher is the fact that this teacher looked like him. So I think that's the bit that is missing, that we need to celebrate our heroes more. We need to have these tales more. We need to bring them to the fold of our communities, to the thick of our communities, to the center of our communities. And that way we can really drive these communities into thriving and into development, because then our standards will get higher, our bar will get higher, and so on. So thank you guys. This has been a really rich conversation we've had. I wish we could continue further, but we really ran out of time. So hopefully next time we'll get more time to kind of have this discussion and take this conversation further.